My manager told me I needed to offer to help everyone carry their groceries to the car. Sounds good, by user Zodiac72826. This is probably super mild compared to most things posted here, but I just remembered it and it made me laugh, so here goes. When I was in high school, far longer ago than I care to admit, I was a bagger at a local grocery store. One of the policies of the store was that we had to offer to help everyone take their groceries out to their car. Anytime someone elderly, or someone with a lot of bags, came through the line, I would offer to help, and many of them accepted. There were a lot of parents with kids that turned down the help because they would make their clones help instead. I quickly learned who was going to accept the offer and who wasn't, so if they fit the criteria for not being interested in help, I didn't bother to ask. They always refused, so why keep asking? Well, one day my manager is hovering while I'm begging, and a lady bought a carton of eggs and a loaf of bread. I smiled and wished her a nice day, handing her the single, featherweight bag, and she smiled and returned the greeting, and was on her way. My manager noticed I didn't offer to help her out and scolded me, and I just pointed out she had one partially filled bag that was super light, so probably wouldn't have needed help. He emphasized it was the store policy and I need to offer help to everyone. The next guy in the line was definitely a gym rat. A foot taller than me, biceps as big as my head, a tight tank top and basketball shorts. It's been so long I can't remember what he bought, but it occupied a single bag, and wasn't heavy. I double bagged it, still in front of my hovering manager, and said, "Sir, would you like me to help you carry all of your groceries out to your car?" He laughed, saw I wasn't also laughing, and his expression changed to utter confusion. He looked at me like I'd just asked him what shampoo he used on his armpit hair. It was 95% confusion, 5% suspicion at what game I could be playing with him. He looked at my manager with a new look that said, "Is this kid okay?" then turned back to me, still chuckling a little bit in confusion, and said, "Nah man, I think I got it." He took his bag of protein powder and eggs or whatever it actually was and walked out, shaking his head. I looked at my manager and shrugged. His expression read as, "Yeah, alright, fine." And he went back to the office. He never hovered or enforced the policy again after that. Like I said, super mild and short compared to a lot of posts on here, but it was my first case of malicious compliance, so hopefully you guys got a laugh out of it as well. EDA, since a lot of people asked, it wasn't Publix or Safeway. It was a very small local chain of grocery stores, and the one I worked at closed a decade ago. Malicious compliance in response to weaponized incompetence, by user Snickerdoodles Rule. Okay, I'm new to the page. I want to hear all of your stories or moments of malicious compliance in marriage. Mine is when I asked my husband to move money from another shared bank account to our checking for bills. You guessed it, he didn't move the money. This was the third time that he forgot about it and I was tired of asking. I watched our checking account go into the negative / with overdraft fees. I confronted him and he said that I didn't tell him which account, but we only have one main account for both of us to pay bills from. The account is connected to our debit cards. The next day he went for lunch at Chipotle. As he was checking out, he realized that he didn't have cash or money on his debit card. He called me at least 5 times asking me to transfer money, since I was near the bank that day. I did transfer money, but not to the account with the debit card, because he didn't say which account, winking face. We haven't had any problems with him transferring money, since. Edit, we share all of our bank accounts. I crunch the numbers and can't always be responsible for budgeting and going to the bank / doing transfers. Teenager grounded from driving gets even, by user GistMe5588. Years ago when my youngest daughter was a teen, she had a truck that she could drive to and from school. Well, as most teens are, she managed to get herself grounded, don't remember why now. Dad took her keys and grounded her for 2 weeks. This meant she should be riding the school bus to and from school or walking. We lived on a farm just outside of a very small town. The high school was just over a mile from our house as the crow flies. Our daughter was also a barrel racer and had a few horses. Her horses had been trained to go home if they lost her rider, daughter, as daughter often rode her at the arena on the other side of town or way out in the far fields. If we saw the horse without rider, we knew there was a problem, way before cell phones. Her dad and I both worked off the farm and left early in the mornings, well before daughter would go to school, and didn't get home till around 6 in the evening. For some reason she wasn't complaining too much about being grounded from her truck. What we found out later, actually much later, was that she was riding her oldest horse bareback and just a halter to school and then turning the horse loose to go home. A friend would give her a ride home and she would put her horse back in the proper field before we got home. All we could do is shake our head as she didn't drive her truck to school for 2 weeks, but also didn't ride the school bus. After all, what 16Y/O farm girl would want to ride the bus? I followed the list, by user Listinquito. Over 20 years ago, I worked as a cashier at a grocery store. The place was enormous, and sold a wide variety of food from standard groceries to expensive delicacies. One busy Saturday morning, when we had lots of customers and the lines were long, I was called away from my lane to the front desk. The manager on duty was speaking with a well-dressed woman. I was told that she wanted someone to get her groceries for her and bring them to the front desk for checkout. In the before times, this was a very unusual request. Our store did not offer personal shopping, I hadn't even heard of it before. I respectfully tried to communicate that by leaving my lane, we would be inconveniencing the other customers because checkout lines would just get longer. I was told to just get it done and handed the woman's shopping list. Here's where malicious compliance kicked in. First, it had already been a long morning for me and my feet were killing me, so I took my time. Second, the list didn't specify how many or what brand when it came to groceries. It just said basic things like apples, meat, tomato sauce, etc. So I delighted in selecting the very finest foods, and lots of them. Pounds and pounds of expensive specialty organic apples. Meat. Prime rib and filet mignon. Tomato sauce. I distinctly remember selecting 8 jars of an imported sauce that cost $16 each. I wheeled the cart back to the front desk almost an hour later, where the woman was still waiting. The manager rang everything up and it came to over $600. The woman balked and tried to argue, but somehow the manager had grown a spine in the hour I was away, because he told her that we had already honored her request. She could either choose to pay the bill or do her own shopping. She decided to pay the bill, although she was clearly unhappy. I went back to my lane, and I never heard another word about it. Shredded my goose pick? My homie crushed his boss's rules and exposed his dirty secret, by user the Farzan. My friend Idris recently shared this wild story from his first job, and I'm still shook. Idris was 17 when he started at this grimy call center. Back home, he's got a whole crew of geese in his yard. He's obsessed with them, treats them like pets, and has a favorite named Blinchik, Russian for pancake. He brought a little wallet-sized photo of Blinchik to work, just to keep his spirits up in that depressing dump. But his boss, Dave, saw it and flipped out. Dave had this hardcore rule: no personal items on your desk, it's about professionalism. Meanwhile, his own desk was a trash heap: old mugs, random figurines, even some rusty fish statue. Idris says Dave had these weird tics, he'd go from passive-aggressive whispers to fake nice vibes in a heartbeat. Total oddball. Anyway, Dave clocked the goose photo and went nuclear. He made Idris rip it to shreds in front of everyone, muttering about rule-breaking. Idris, just a 17-year-old kid, froze. He had no clue how to stand up for himself back then and just did it. He says he almost cried but held it together so he wouldn't look weak in front of the team. Blinchik's photo was toast, and Dave smirked like he'd just won something. Idris wasn't letting it slide. Dave want me to obey? I'll maliciously comply with him. Next day, he rolled in with nothing: no pen, no notepad, no headset. When Dave asked what the deal was, Idris hit him with, "You said no personal items, I'm waiting for the company to hook me up." Dave lost it, but Idris doubled down, "It's your rule." The team jumped in, half of them stopped bringing their stuff too, and the whole operation tanked. Customers were raging on the phones, calls were dropping, and Dave was scrambling to make everyone work normal. Eventually, he caved and mumbled, "Fine, bring what you need, just keep it low-key." Idris came back with a fresh Blinchik photo and slapped it on his desk. Dave didn't say squat. But it gets crazier. A couple weeks later, Dave tried to fire Idris for insubordination. Idris, now sharper, had recorded the whole "no personal items" freak out on his phone, legal where we're at, and sent it to HR with a rundown of Dave's hypocrisy. HR didn't axe Dave, but they gave him a slap on the wrist, and he chilled out. Then the real bomb hit. Turns out Dave had been scheming cash from the petty cash box for years. Small grabs, but steady. Idris says he cooked up the rule obsession to keep everyone stressed and off his trail. He'd snag money from the drawer supposedly for coffee, paper, office junk, and mark it as office needs. It added up to a hefty chunk, though no one's dropped an exact number. His weird mix of passive-aggressive jabs and over-the-top strictness kept newbies like Idris too spooked to dig deeper. That photo meltdown? Idris figures Dave was just flexing to throw everyone off his scent. Dave got busted when a senior co-worker noticed the office expenses weren't lining up. They canned him, and later even filed charges. Idris says he's still stoked about how he accidentally took down a crook by playing Dave's own dumb game. Blinchik's still chilling in his yard with the rest of the geese, honking at anyone who steps too close. So, Reddit, what's the call? Is Idris the king of payback?